Have you ever been on a plane, cruising at 30,000 feet, and just had that moment of, wow, how is this even possible? How does this giant metal machine know exactly where it is and what it's doing? Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain on its secret senses.
I mean, really think about that for a second. We're talking about a machine that weighs 400 tons, flying through thick clouds, sometimes with absolutely zero visibility, and yet it moves with this incredible precision. It feels like it shouldn't be possible.
So what's the secret? It's not magic, but it's pretty close. The answer is that a modern aircraft has what you could call a hidden nervous system. It's this complex network of sensors that act like its own set of superhuman senses. So, let's break down what those senses are.
Okay, first up, we've got a sense that you and I use all the time without even thinking about it. It's called proprioception. You know, it's that thing that lets you touch your nose with your eyes closed. Your brain just knows where your arm is. Well, a plane needs that exact same ability for its own limbs, its flaps, its rudder, its landing gear.
Yeah, this is the real challenge, right? The pilot is sitting way up front in the cockpit. They can't exactly lean out the window to check the angle of the tail rudder. They need some way to know, with perfect accuracy, the exact position of every single control surface on the plane. So how on earth do they do that?
The answer is this incredibly clever little device called a synchro system. The best way to think about it is like a magic angle copier. It literally takes the physical angle of, say, a wing flap, and it perfectly copies that exact angle onto a gauge in the cockpit, all just using a few wires. It's brilliant.
And here's how it works. It's actually pretty straightforward. So, the rudder moves. Attached to it is a little synchro generator, and it turns too. As it turns, it creates a very specific electrical signal that basically screams, "Hey, I'm at 15 degrees." That signal zips through the wires up to the cockpit where a synchro motor is waiting. It gets the signal and turns a needle on a dial to, you guessed it, the exact same 15-degree angle. Simple, reliable, and it gives the plane a perfect sense of its own body.
All right, so the plane knows what its own body is doing. But what about the world around it? That brings us to our next sense, the sense of touch. A plane needs to be able to feel the air it's flying through, and this sense is absolutely fundamental to flight.
Essentially, the plane's skin is dotted with these really smart sensors that are constantly measuring air pressure. And by picking up on tiny differences in that pressure, the plane's main computer can figure out some of the most critical information it needs to stay in the sky.
So the whole system boils down to measuring two different kinds of pressure. Think about it like this. If you stick your hand out of a moving car window, that force you feel pushing your hand back, that's kind of like pitot pressure. It's the pressure of the air hitting the plane head-on. Then you have static pressure, which is just the regular atmospheric pressure of the air around the plane. The plane's computer subtracts one from the other, and that difference tells it a whole lot.
And get this, from that one simple calculation, the plane's air data system figures out all of this crucial stuff: its airspeed through the air, its altitude, and even its vertical speed. Is it climbing or descending, and how fast? It's just incredible how much the plane learns just by feeling the air around it.
Okay, what's next? Well, every single plane needs an amazing sense of balance. Imagine you're flying through a dense cloud. There are no landmarks, no horizon, nothing. How in the world do you know which way is up? The answer is a piece of technology that works just like our own inner ear.
The absolute hero of this system is the gyroscope. And at its heart, a gyro is really just a spinning wheel. But when you spin that wheel really fast, it has this almost magical property. It wants to stay pointing in the exact same direction no matter how you move the frame around it. It creates this perfectly stable reference point in space.
And there are two key principles that make this work. The first one is rigidity. That's just the gyro's stubbornness, its refusal to change its orientation. That gives the plane a rock-solid sense of up. The second one, precession, is a little weird. It means if you push on a spinning gyro, the force actually shows up 90 degrees away from where you pushed. It's a bit mind-bending, but it's a predictable effect engineers can use to make tiny, precise adjustments.
But that's only half the puzzle. The plane also needs to feel itself speeding up or slowing down. For that, it uses devices called accelerometers. You already know exactly what they measure. It's that feeling of being pushed back into your seat when the plane takes off. Yep, an accelerometer is what measures that exact force. And here's where it all comes together beautifully. A modern flight computer, or an inertial reference unit, uses 3 gyroscopes and 3 accelerometers. Each pair is set up on a different axis, one for pitch, one for roll, and one for yaw.
With all three covered, the system creates this perfect 3D picture of every single move the plane makes. That's how it keeps its balance.
So, the plane knows its body. It feels the air, it's got a sense of balance. But what about its internal health? That brings us to maybe the most critical sense of all, its ability to constantly monitor the very heartbeat of the aircraft, the engines.
Inside a jet engine, things are intense. We're talking extreme pressures and temperatures. So the plane is constantly running a health check on a whole bunch of vitals to make sure those engines are happy. It's monitoring things like pressure, temperature, the rotational speed of the turbine blades, and how much fuel is flowing in. Think of it like a nonstop EKG for each engine.
And to do all this, you need a whole toolkit of specialized sensors. You've got thermocouples that can handle insane heat, tacho generators that measure RPMs, and these cool capacitance probes that can tell the difference between air and fuel to measure how much gas is left in the tanks. Every single one is like a nerve ending sending vital info back to the cockpit. So, when you step back and look at the whole picture, the plane's knowledge of its own body, its sense of touch on the air, its incredible inner ear for balance, and that constant health check on its engines, what you have is a machine with a truly breathtaking level of awareness. It's this symphony of senses working together that makes modern flight not just possible, but incredibly safe. And knowing all this naturally leads to a pretty interesting question, doesn't it? As all these technological senses get more and more advanced, more and more integrated, it starts to blur the lines. Where does the pilot's job end and the plane's own awareness begin? It's definitely something to think about the next time you're looking out that window.